I want to give a round of applause to the New Bedford Symphony Trio for agreeing to come today to present for us. You can see them listed in our program. We felt the only way to start this program was to start with the symphony, something that was very important to Frederick Douglass. And we'll say a little more about that later as the program progresses. We apologize, but we don't apologize, because there's so many people here that we didn't expect. So your coming out is a great appreciation for what we're trying to do here. And is everybody in their seat that has a part on the program? Is Langston Brito. He's going to be one of the young people helping us unveil. Okay, if not, I'm going to ask Donna Rain Dance Page. She is medicine woman for the Pocasset Wampanoag tribe, and she's the great-great-granddaughter of Polly Johnson. Would you come forward, please?
Good afternoon, everybody.
And I should say she's going to be doing a native acknowledgement. So for those who can stand, please stand.
Today, we gratefully acknowledge the native peoples of whose ancestral homeland we gather, as well as the diverse and vibrant native communities who make their home here today. We acknowledge that the lands and the waterways of what is now the city of New Bedford are on original lands of the Pocasset Wampanoag. We acknowledge the Pocasset tribe of the Wampanoag, stewards of the land from Acushnet to the lands beyond the Tittacot River, from Freetown to Sakonnet. We honor our ancestors and the gifts they gave us. We honor the brave men and women who survived the oppression of slavery. We reached out to those seeking freedom and welcomed them into their homes. Most importantly, to me personally today, we honor my great-great-grandmother, Mahala Page, and her mother, Mary Polly Page Johnson, daughters of the Pocasset people. Polly Johnson was a truly remarkable woman. Not only was she a businesswoman, she owned a confectionery shop and prospered. She was a property owner. Polly was an abolitionist and champion for the rights of the enslaved and the oppressed. Along with her husband, Nathan Johnson, she gave refuge to Frederick and Anna Bailey. It was in her home that Frederick Douglass began a new and remarkable life. As her descendants, we continue to fight against oppression today. Today we hope to raise awareness of the presence and the resilience of the Native peoples in our community. Thank you.
You may be seated. Gene Coster and I will be your hosts for this afternoon. So I'm going to ask Gene Coster to come forward to introduce our next speaker.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to introduce Reverend Laurie Smalls, who was the first minister installed in the 128 years of the Union Baptist Church. Another little history note is in 1840, Anna and Frederick Douglass had their first daughter, Rosetta, blessed in the Third Christian Church, predecessor of the Union Baptist Church. Reverend Laurie Smalls.
Amen. It's my honor to stand here as the first female pastor of the historic Union Baptist Church. Let us bow our hearts in a word of prayer. And Father God, we come before you on this auspicious occasion. You allowed us to survive, to be able to see and experience this day. We feel your presence even as the gentle breeze is going to and fro to the hearts of our brothers and our sisters who have gathered here today. You are the God of liberation. You are the God of deliverance. You are the God of creativity. You are the God of possibility. And for that, we say thank you. Thank you, God, for the New Bedford Historical Society. Thank you for our brothers and our sisters who have gathered here on this sacred land. We thank you for the Wampanoag tribe, Lord, for allowing us to be here today. We celebrate the life of Frederick Douglass, and we appreciate what you have done. We are descendants of those who came in chains, and today we are free. And so we say thank you, Lord. We bless you and we magnify your name. Our prayer is that whatever we do is that we would honor your name. In your name we do pray. Amen and amen and amen.
So, like Harriet Tubman, conductor of the Underground Railroad, in many ways, Lee Blake has been our conductor in making sure New Bedford claims its rightful place as these untold stories are told. In addition, Lee Blake was recently awarded the honorary doctorate degree from UMass Dartmouth at the school's 223 commencement. So today, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Loretta Lee Blake, president of the Bedford Historical Society.
What an absolutely wonderful crowd. Look at all the folks here. And people kept saying, you know, with COVID, you think you're going to keep going? Are you going to stop? And we said, no, we're going to keep going. And we've had wonderful help all along. Good afternoon to all our guests who have joined us here today. It's an honor for me to preside over the opening of Abolition Row Park. The New Bedford Historical Society and the City of New Bedford are proud of our work together to change, as many of you know, a blighted lot into a testament of the city's amazing abolition history, while also creating a new historic district just 2 weeks ago for the residents of the city. Abolition Row celebrates the legacy of the 19th century black and white New Bedford residents who stood up against the wrongs of enslavement at a time when being an anti-slavery activist was considered crazy and odd. The Underground Railroad was perhaps the most dramatic protest against enslavement in U.S. history, and was truly the first integrated human rights movement in the country. It is a story of individual and group sacrifice that can be told through the lives of many of the abolitionists that live right here. Their voices should be heard, their deeds amplified, and that is what Abolition Row Park will do. I'm grateful for the honor, as it comes at a very important time of the history of our country, when we have people who want to stop the teaching of African American, Native American, Asian Americans. They want to stop us telling our own story. Our work was an educational organization and stands in direct opposition to this view, and we are committed to teach the truth and tell the stories of the men and women who built this city and this country. No one moves these extraordinary projects forward without assistance from many areas. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge a few of our founding members who have been the visionaries and at the forefront of our society since 1996. Lee Charlton, Catherine Grover, our historian and author of The Fugitive Gibraltar. Carl Cruz, who coined the phrase Abolition Row. Jackie Hall Smith, I thought I saw Jackie coming in. Jackie Hall Smith, there she is. She was the visionary and the founder of the Historical Society. And Joan Bobian. I'm not sure Joan was coming, but we mentioned her in our remarks. Also in the audience today is Tony and Elsie Souza, who worked with us to save the Johnson House many years ago with Whale, and they gave their assistance as we, people of color, we began saving Black historic places in New Bedford. Their support and that of so many others over the years has led us to this moment and our new park. As an organization dedicated to preserving and celebrating the heritage and legacy of people of color, the New Bedford Historical Society has led the efforts to add diversity and inclusion to the historical narrative of New Bedford for the past 27 years. And now when people hear New Bedford, they think people of color. They think Cape Verdeans. They think African Americans. They think Native people. Before, they just thought white whalers. Well, we changed that. Our efforts have borne fruit by saving the Nathan and Mary Johnson House, the first home in freedom, as you've heard, of Frederick Anna Douglass, visible public art dotting the region, including the Lewis Temple statue in front of the public library, the 54th Mass Volunteers Plaza at Custom House Square, the 54th Mass mural, the African American and Native American Trail honoring Captain Paul Cuffey in Westport, Cuffey Plaza in New Bedford, the Jazz mural. We are now adding Abolition Row and the new historic district to this list of our accomplishments to save Black history. The elements of public art we have added to the New Bedford landscape ignite public attention and inspire onlookers to embrace the underappreciated and sometimes forgotten deeds of men and women of color. Their stories represent a touchstone for all of us. Black history is everybody's history. Black history is the history of this country. And I'm so grateful. One of the wonderful things is learning how to use these words like appreciation, grateful. I'm so grateful that the city was our partner in this. We really came with a new model of how to develop community development with nonprofit organizations. The City of New Bedford, the National Park Service, the Society of Friends, AHA, the Cultural Outreach Group, our state elected officials, Representative Cabral and Montigny, and many foundations and many individuals. I think they're all here. Thank you so much for all your support while we put this park together. Thank you. And now I'd like to bring and introduce to you Brian Bowles, who is the Executive Director of Mass Humanities. And Mass Humanities has been working to amplify the voice of Frederick Douglass, but also to amplify the importance of the humanities. Brian has spent his life weaving stories together to make sense of the past, present, and people. He believes that this moment in time calls for the humanities more than ever. Brian, let me call you up.
Good afternoon. It's quite an honor to be on this stage in front of this audience on this beautiful and historic day. I am prone to be overwhelmed, so that's just your heads up. Mass Humanities works all across the state. I happen to live in Western Massachusetts. It's the last day of school, so they put me earlier in the program so I could rush out of here, so don't think that I'm actually all that important. But I love New Bedford so deeply because of the experiences and the people that I get to meet whenever I come here. Frederick Douglass came here in 1838 to find freedom. He and his wife went into that house, and they changed the history of this world. And people come here today to find freedom. And they come to Massachusetts because of Frederick Douglass, but also because of a community like this who has embraced these opportunities. Mass Humanities has been supporting readings of Frederick Douglass's speech on the 4th of July for the last 14 years, joining a long tradition of shared readings of that speech, which is essential to understanding the intertwined origins of American democracy and American slavery. I'm proud to say that this year we have dramatically increased the number of events that are happening in Massachusetts to read and talk about and learn from that speech. In 2019, we funded 15 events. This year, 41 communities are taking the opportunity to read out loud together the words of Frederick Douglass, to stand shoulder to shoulder like you all are today. It's deeply an honor to have brought my children as they've grown up to Douglass readings every 4th of July, so that my son sees the 4th of July as the day to read Frederick Douglass, and I think likes Frederick Douglass almost as much as he likes going to the beach in the summer. That is who Massachusetts is raising for the next generation. We're also fortunate to have legislators and elected officials and a mayor who want to reckon with history. We know, as Lee said, that all over this country there are people trying to erase the heroism of Americans who fought against slavery, the abolitionist tradition that we all stand in. These are the same people that are playing games with the lives of people just like Douglass, who came aboard planes and boats and trains to find a better life. In Massachusetts, we have taken a different trajectory with our communities and with our history. There cannot be a confronting of the challenges we face without an earnest embrace of all the complications and heroic and tragic things that have happened here, and we stand in that tradition and we follow in those footsteps. That's why this is such an important day. It's a commitment to the past, but it's also to do as Douglass instructed us to do, make it useful for the present and the future. It has been an honor to know Lee Blake. She has held the bar for all of us and set the example for all of us for what it means to really do the work, to have a dream, to make it manifest, to honor that history, to bring all of us together in that work. I believe the challenge is for all of us to stay together in that work as we leave here today. That is to honor Lee Blake, and that is to honor Frederick Douglass. Thank you for having me and doing this work.
Well, this afternoon, there are a lot of special guests here. One of them is one of my first black professors, Professor Everett Hoagland.
Mine too.
Yours too. So think about going, Jean and I, and many others, I'm sure. We went through our whole educational experience, K through 12 education, first 2 years of college before we even had one professor of color, one teacher of color. That needs to be changed. Everett? Everett will be reading Just Words. And Everett was our first poet laureate of the city of New Bedford.
Yes.
And Everett has been more than generous. He has mentored so many of the young poets in the city, and we thank you for that, Everett.
Lee was one of the best and has become one of the most accomplished students in my 40 years of being a full-time educator.
Louder.
Lee Blake has become one of the most accomplished and was one of the best of all the students I've had in 40 years of teaching. I'd like to take something out of what Lee said and the gentleman from the Endowment for the Humanities said and elaborate a bit. And that is that it is wonderful that people know Douglass's speech about power does not concede without a demand. It's wonderful that they know his 4th of July speech. But just as the statue is an exquisite depiction of Douglass as he was when he came here at the age of 20, not as a white-maned old man. I wish I had that mane. But as somebody who was a post-adolescent. Several years later in Lynn, Massachusetts, after several years in New Bedford, he wrote one of the greatest works in American literature. And that is the narrative of Frederick Douglass, an American slave. And it ends triumphantly and joyfully with his freedom in New Bedford, having escaped from slavery in Maryland. It should be required reading for every public high school student in this city. And it was for a minute under the leadership of one school superintendent in New Bedford. But I don't believe that it is required reading anymore. And it is as much the story of America during that time as it is of Frederick Douglass of that time in the 1840s when he wrote it as a very young man, unschooled, a testament not just to his genius, but to his commitment, his love of language, his adherence to the facts. There's a lot of mythology going around these days, but as Lee said, we have to teach our history because, as Baldwin said, the story of the Negro in America is America's story. This is the short version of a piece I wrote about Douglass' escape from slavery in Maryland to freedom in New Bedford. I am a poor pilgrim of sorrow. Sometimes I don't know where to roam, but I've heard of a city called heaven, and I've started to make it my home. Dead Fred Douglass, alive in the afterlife of his words. No more driver's lash for me. No more, no more. The gospel trains are coming. I hear it rumbling through the land. The poorest of poor can go with their fare in hand. The fare is faith and struggle. So what we waiting for? Get on board, children. There's room for many or more. If there is no struggle, there is no progress. Just words in hand on borrowed free merchant seaman's papers loaned by Brother Freeblood, given meager money and abundant love in Baltimore, your freedom financed by fiancé, freeborn Anna Murray, who risking all would marry you on a sidetrack at a way station in New York City. And so wearing her heart's handiwork, disguised as a sailor in a blood-red shirt, tarp hat, black cravat, you boarded the train in Maryland at Mercy Station, northbound to Jubilee Terminal, where you would be free at last. In stand-up Brother Nathan Johnson's house at Mercy's Wellspring and 7th Heaven Streets in New Bedford's Abolitionist Village, on that great getting up morning where barely there you renamed yourself, just words from reading a poem given to you by Nathan Johnson. at your underground, overground train trips last stop, steeped in words, baptized in purpose. You came roaring out of Nathan and Polly Johnson's door, reborn, lean and leonine Frederick Douglass of the long, lifelong reason rhetorical roar. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. The steel, reverberating roar tells those content to quietly wait for justice, don't leave life to chance or fate. Agitate, agitate, agitate. Your roar reminds us how we have been and should be. Frederick Douglass, in the afterlife of your words. I've heard of a city called heaven, and I've started to make it my home.
Thank you, Everett, and thank you for bringing the spirit of a young Frederick Douglass here. Now I'd like to introduce Mayor Jon Mitchell. The mayor worked with me, along with many of his departments, to make sure that this would get done. We were able to raise money using the Community Preservation Act. We were able to leverage the money that we got from the Community Preservation Act with almost $600,000 from state and other amounts of money. And I won't go into all the finances, but I always tell people I learned how to write with Everett Hoagland. But I didn't become a poet. I became a grant writer. So we'd like to thank the different departments that Mayor Mitchell put at our disposal and brought you this wonderful park as a new part of the community development. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm blown away by the crowd. I think we all are. I think there are actually people standing on the sidewalk in the street. Who knew? But I guess when you think about it, it figures. Only in New Bedford would this happen, and I'm proud to say that. I do feel a little badly that I'm in the shade now, and all of you are in the sun. So I'll be aware of the need for brevity today. But I do want to stand here before you and just share my enthusiasm. My take on it will be a decidedly city-based, from a city-based perspective. There's a lot really to love about the place and what it means and where it is. And I just want to start by saying, first off, Lee Blake, the New Bedford Historical Society, everybody associated with it, thank you for your leadership on this over so many years. That is the biggest takeaway, frankly. But I want to offer up a couple of other thoughts. So first off, as we know, as we all celebrate today, big things happened here. And if we are to celebrate in this general vicinity, and if we are to celebrate those big things, there has to be a design of a public space that celebrates them, that is of high quality, high caliber, a really high standard. And we've strived as a city to do that over the last decade. And you've seen what we've done in the built environment. This is really, to my mind, a continuation of those efforts. And I really want to celebrate today those who put the little extra effort in, the little extra effort of time and skill to make it look just so. Because I don't know about you, but I think it looks fantastic. So I want to recognize, there are a couple of people I do want to recognize. I do want to recognize, first off, the park designers, Heather Highmark and Barbara Connolly. Where are they?
Stand up.
Thank you, guys.
Stand up, stand up.
Stand up, stand up. We're a city that celebrates great design. You guys did something fabulous here and lasting, and I hope you are as proud of it as we are. Where is Robert Blake, the sculptor himself?
Right in front of you. Right in front of first row.
Look at that. Thank you. They together have done something that we hope and we are confident will be timeless here and a tremendous contribution to our city. So we celebrate what you have done. There are a few things I want to point out that are really important to point out. So first off, and then maybe there's a little bit of my economic development hat I'm wearing right now, but this facet of New Bedford's history has not been given its due. And you heard a little bit about that from Lee. She's been saying that for years, but it is due. And it's due not just out of a sense of fairness, as important as that is, but as we in New Bedford should be exclaiming those things, proclaiming to the world those great things that happened here. And we shouldn't be shy about it. The connection with Frederick Douglass, and by the way, Frederick Douglass lived in a lot of places. The Eastern Shore of Maryland, Baltimore, Lynn, Massachusetts, as Everett said, Rochester, New York, Washington, D.C., all these other places, just about all of them have some monument to him. But I think New Bedford has the highest claim to him because, after all, this was where Frederick Douglass became the Frederick Douglass known to history. This is where he spread his wings. This is where he became a free man and established a family and really made his mark on the world. And as Everett said, this is really important, when he wrote the autobiography of his young life, this was the punctuation mark, New Bedford was. And so we should be proud of that. We should proclaim it to everybody. And the fact that we now have a monument directly to him, a statue directly to him, is an act of saying, you know what, New Bedford's an important place. And you know what? I think Frederick Douglass would feel the same way. I'm being a little presumptuous, but I think he'd agree with us. The second thing I want to say is none of this happened. I know a number of you who were at the groundbreaking yesterday for Island Park on Acushnet Avenue should all check that out because that's going to be another terrific public space in the city. That a number of folks here who worked on this also worked on that. It bears really emphasizing that great things like this happen because some folks have a great idea and they drive it and they drive it and they drive it. They're committed to it. They bring people in and they make it happen. And it doesn't happen. These things don't happen easily. We get to stand here and celebrate it at its opening, but there was a whole lot of effort for years to get to this point. And again, this isn't initiated out of City Hall. It isn't initiated from elected officials. It's initiated privately through folks who care about something and really want to contribute to the place they live. And that, again, it just bears emphasizing that what you guys have done, Lee, and bringing us all together is hugely valuable, not only to your organization, but to this city, and frankly, to America more generally. And you know how to work the halls of power. City government was deeply involved. Mary Raposa, for her, this was a labor of love. I want to make sure she gets her due. Mary, stand up, please. Our Director of Parks, Recreation, and Beaches, she ran point for the city on this for a number of years. And it wouldn't have happened without city government. Even if city government doesn't initiate it, city government has to be there, and Mary was walking the point for us all along the way. Margot Saulnier, our arts director, I don't know if Margot's here. You know, there's Margot right there. A couple of other people I do want to make sure I mention. So both of those guys, a lot of Jessica Bailey from the Community Preservation Act as well. I think Jess is here somewhere. Maybe not. She's getting a sunburn out there way in the corner. The other thing I just want to say is, and thank the contractor, Jam Corporation. I don't know if anybody from there is here. I hope somebody from there is. Jam. Nice going, guys. Well, look, the little extra effort, the little extra touch makes a big difference, because that's, when it comes to landscape architecture, it's the last thing that's built, but it's the first thing that people see. So it's got to be done with care. We really appreciate what you guys have done. And I want to thank all the elected officials, the city councilors, of course, Linda Morad, president of the city council, supported this project, along with all the other councilors who are here. We're also here, Shane Burgo, Derek Baptiste, Naomi Carney. You guys are all different places. Lots of support from the council as well as our state delegation. Tony and Chris, Senator Markey's office, everybody, thank you for your support. ARPA funds went into this as well, so we thank our federal delegation for their support for ARPA. I really like ARPA. It's really good to spend money on good stuff like this. Christina Connolly, also the city's chief operating officer, did a tremendous amount of work on this over the years. The last thing I want to say is this. The last point I want to make is this. I didn't arrange for those sirens. Let them pass. So, as I mentioned at the outset, big things happened here, like on this very spot, including by somebody who played a big role in the emergence of America over many years, including many, many years after he passed, to become a more perfect union. And so this is a place of where magnanimous acts happened, taking in a stranger in a strange place, right? Coming totally without any kind of connection here. Frederick Douglass arrived, as did other fugitive slaves, as many in this city. And I think Catherine Glover may be here, but she noted that. Is she here?
Yeah, she's here.
All right, she's somewhere. Where's Catherine?
Back over there.
Over there, and near the tree.
You guys,
Near the tree.
there she is. I wish you guys would sit in order, because we're looking around the crowd. But you made a really important point, which is in one of your pieces, which is on the eve of the Civil War, New Bedford was this place that had this sort of seemingly dichotomous attributes. It was the wealthiest city in the United States per capita, thanks to the abundance of whale oil and the price spike at the time. This was overflowing with wealth, as both Frederick Douglass and Melville wrote. But at the same time, it happened also to be the city with the highest per capita number of fugitive slaves in the United States. So you had at once these Quakers and others here who were extraordinarily wealthy, but they set a tone for egalitarianism and tolerance and acceptance and welcome that really, I think, just looking at the crowd today is something that we all feel part of, because we're all here in droves. And that's really, really important. And I think as we think about this place, where it is, what it means, my hope for my city and for people who visit our city is that they'll take some small inspiration just by being here for a quiet moment of reflection, spending time with their children, or just passing through, walking by, that there will be some kind of connection there, and that we'll all be better off for it. And I think that's going to happen. So I thank all of you for working together to do something really big. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much. The city was such an amazing partner. And I'd also like to take a minute to talk about another amazing partner, and that would be Representative Antonio Cabral. Representative Cabral has always had the Historical Society at his heart and has helped us in so many ways, making sure that we got ARPA money, making sure that we got money to restore the Johnson House, which, you know, the Johnson House used to be a single-room occupancy apartment building, and to help us with this. And I'd like to call you up now because I can see you've been out in the sun a little too long.
Well, good afternoon. Let me begin with a few thank yous. First to my colleague Chris Hendricks, who's been a fairly newcomer, but has been a great partner, a great advocate, a great supporter of the things that we need to do for New Bedford and the people of New Bedford. We share the city now, so Chris, thank you for all the work that you do as well. And thank you to Senator Montigny. I know if he could be here, he will be here today. He has been also a great partner on the other side. We call the other chamber, the Senate. But it's been also a pleasure working with him and his staff, and I know we have Audra here representing Senator Montigny, so a big thank you to Senator Montigny as well. And a big thank you to the board of the New Bedford Historical Society. Every single one who have served in the past, who is serving presently, but of course, Lee Blake, right? As Jean said, she is the driver. She is the driver of the Underground Railroad today. Quietly, in a nice manner. Yes, she knows how to work the halls of government, and she knows how to advocate in a quiet way as she is, but gets things done. We are here in part because of her driven determination, her tenacity. Yes, she got a PhD award, honorary award, and I was there with her to celebrate that. She got an award today as well at the State House, which we'll share with you in a few weeks. Yeah. But wow. To paraphrase Frederick Douglass, truth, justice, truth, liberty, humanity. It's right there at the beginning as you enter the park. If we stay focused, eventually we will win. And this is what really is about today. Celebrating Frederick Douglass, celebrating those who helped the freed slaves as they arrived in New Bedford. But it's also about celebrating all of you as residents of this city. Celebrating every single person in this city, starting with the abolition movement to this day. Look at it, look at yourself. This is a reflection of the city today. Look at this crowd. The diversity that we have in this city. This is what makes us rich as a city. By looking out, you see New Bedford and the people of New Bedford that have always welcomed newcomers, be escaped or freed slaves, to immigrants across the decades. And we still are welcoming people. We are deeply committed to that. You know, Frederick Douglass found its liberty in New Bedford, formed a family, and yes, voted for the first time as a free man in New Bedford. Isn't that great? For Frederick Douglass, that was the words that are subscribed at the entrance of this park. Particular liberty and justice and humanity. Yes, and truth. Today's arrivals, those who are reaching us in New Bedford and coming to us, they're also looking for liberty in different ways. But they're also looking to hopefully enter into the American dream. For their families, for their kids, for their grandkids, so they also can be here with us as we continue celebrating our diversity, in our inclusiveness, and yes, our transparency as individuals and as a community. I am proud to serve this community. I am humbled to really have an opportunity to be here with you today and say a few words. This event goes beyond just a physical space. This celebration goes beyond, as beautiful as this park is and as representative as this park is of our diversity, this celebration goes beyond a physical space. This is a celebration of all of us in the end, and I know that Frederick Douglass would feel the same. Imagine in the 1800s walking down Union Street towards the waterfront. Imagine Frederick Douglass walking down Union Street, along with some Cape Verdean Americans as well, and other groups that made this home, this city, their home. Just imagine Union Street in those days. The diversity already and the contributions to make this city, as the mayor said, the richest per capita in the U.S. It's those folks like Frederick Douglass that made that possible. African Americans, Cape Verdean Americans, Native Americans, and along the way, some Irish Americans, some English, some Portuguese, and others.
West Indian.
Yes, and Western Indians. Yes.
West Indian.
And what? Ball coffee, right? So, we as a community are proud, and I know that every single one of you in this audience are extremely excited and proud of this day. So, to all of you, thank you for your work, but your work is not done.
That's right.
The work continues. There's much work to be done still in this city to celebrate the contributions of the people of New Bedford to this city and to this state and to this country. Thank you. And I'm going to conclude by thanking all of those individuals who live and vote in my district. Yeah? Because I wouldn't be able to be here without them. And they have given me the liberty to be able to stand for the issues that are important for all of us. And I know if every single one of them could be here with us, they would be. So, to all of you and to them, thank you.
Thank you. We're going to have the representative from Montigny's office that wanted to say something quickly. And then we're going to have the representative following from Representative Keating's office. Unfortunately, he was unable to be here because he was called back to Washington for an important vote. And you know what's going on in Washington, so we need his vote there. So if you two will line up and then be able to do those things. And then Gene Costa will bring up another individual who will present something.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Audra Riding. I'm here on behalf of Senator Mark Montigny. And we wish to express our sincere gratitude to the New Bedford Historical Society, the board members, the volunteers, both past and present. And we especially want to thank, I know there's been a lot of this today, but you, Lee, for your hard work and tenacious determination to ensure this project's completion. I also want to take a moment to highlight the very early work of this society in bringing this city's rich abolitionist history to the forefront, because it wasn't always that way. And in particular, I'd like to take a moment, and I'm going to get in trouble highlighting certain people, but we want to recognize the efforts of Joan Beaubien. I'm not sure if she's here today. But over 20 years ago, Joan worked very closely with the senator to help get some of the first state funding for the society and to bring these projects to fruition. And what I'm about to read is a little bit unorthodox. We usually don't read the law out publicly, but This is to demonstrate just for how long and how hard the Historical Society has been working. So this is the state budget from the year 2000 from Senator Montigny, and it reads, provided further that $250,000 shall be expended for a grant to the New Bedford Historical Society for capital improvements and startup costs to establish an educational program recognizing New Bedford's prominent role in the abolition movement, the Underground Railroad, and the Nathan and Polly Johnson House. And provided further, an additional $75,000 shall be expended for the society to operate a program to educate youth on the history of slavery and the Underground Railroad at the Frederick Douglass House. That was 23 years ago, and the society is still here today. And we invite you all to the State House if you haven't been in a while. The Senate chamber has recently been renovated, and the senators have ensured, under that historic golden dome, that the words of Frederick Douglass are emblazoned on those walls. And they're right in this park as well. Truth, justice, liberty, and humanity will ultimately prevail. And not only that, every February 14th, every year in Massachusetts is Frederick Douglass Day. Now, why Valentine's Day? Well, thanks to Lee, she reminded us that was Douglass's chosen birthday. So every Valentine's Day, remember Douglass. But this park here today, we're here to celebrate Douglass, we're here to celebrate New Bedford and the abolitionists. But remember, as it's been alluded to, this is the history of our nation. The stories told here are those experienced time and time again throughout our country and right here in our city. And even today, we have a growing immigrant community, primarily from Central America, and many of those settling in our city are children. They have fled violence, poverty, and oppression. Does that sound familiar? Mm-hmm. They did not experience a pleasant journey getting here, nor is it easy to assimilate to a new way of life. But hopefully for these young people, New Bedford is their North Star, just as it was for Douglass and those seeking freedom during the 19th century. And that's what makes today so important. When children step foot on these grounds, as they are today, I see we're joined by several, including the family of Jabril Kazan, another giant of civil rights. By stepping foot on these grounds, these young people will be immersed in a story filled with strength, hope, courage, and perseverance, or in the words of Douglass, truth, justice, liberty, and humanity. And for that, we're forever grateful to the Historical Society and for all of those who continue to tell the rich history of our beloved city. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Elizabeth Tevsroda, and I work for Congressman Bill Keating, and on his behalf, I'm here to present the congressional record in recognition of the Abolition Row Park and historical districts. I do need to disclose that I'm not very good at public speaking, my first time here, so bear with me. Sorry about that. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in celebration of the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the new Abolition Row Park and Historical District in New Bedford, Mass. The park will sit across from 3 buildings on the National Register of Historic Places, the Nathan and Mary Johnson properties and the Friends Meeting House. Each of these buildings and the people who lived and met in them played a significant role in New Bedford's abolition movement. The park was developed through a partnership between the New Bedford Historical Society, the City of New Bedford, and local organizations to reclaim and preserve the 19th century neighborhood that was once home to key members of the Underground Railroad and the city's anti-slavery movement, including Frederick Douglass. Nathan and Mary Johnson's house was the first house that Frederick Douglass lived in after escaping slavery in Maryland in 1838. It was at this house that Douglass changed his name from Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey to Frederick Douglass. And it was in New Bedford where Frederick Douglass and his wife Anna started their family, and Douglass earned his first wages as a free man. On June 23, 2023, a ribbon-cutting ceremony will be held to celebrate the opening of the Abolition Row Park, and to commemorate the new local Abolition Row Historical District, which includes 4 blocks of historical buildings, many of which were the homes of critical anti-slavery advocates leading up to the Civil War. The Abolition Row Park will also include a 7-foot statue of Frederick Douglass, who spent his first years of freedom right across the street from the very park. Mr. Speaker, I am proud to celebrate the opening of the Abolition Park and Historical District, and I ask that my colleagues join me in acknowledging and honoring the crucial role that the city of New Bedford played in our country's abolition movement. The Honorable William Keating, Congressional Record of the 118th Congress. Thank you to Lee, thank you for all who are involved. This is truly a beautiful event, and I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Okay, so now I'd like to invite up to the podium our Counselor at Large, Naomi Carney.
Thank you, everybody. I'd like to invite my colleagues come up with me. Councilor Burgo, come on, Councilor Baptiste, Councilor Jessia, and Council President Linda Morad. First of all, I want to say, wow, this is amazing. This is amazing. The city of New Bedford is the home of Frederick Douglass. And I look at my native sisters here. I mean, we're all one big melting pot. As a proud Cape Verdean woman and a Native American, it's my honor to come and present a citation to honor the National Park and the city of New Bedford for this beautiful, beautiful Abolition Row Park. It's gorgeous. Can I have a big hand for our Historical Society? So we've got I don't want to keep everybody in the sun because I know the previous speaker said it all. I don't have to repeat it. We all know what we're here for. So without further ado, my colleagues in government, I have City Council President Linda Morad, Council Ward 4 Derek Baptiste, Council Ward 2 Maria Giesta, Council at Large Shane Burgo, and Council Ward 5 Scott Lima. Thank you all for joining me up here. So, the New Bedford City Council official resolution. Be it hereby known to all that the City Council of New Bedford, Massachusetts hereby offers its sincerest congratulations to the New Bedford Historical Society in recognition of the partnership between the City of New Bedford and the New Bedford Historical Society in the opening ceremony and statue unveiling at Abolition Row Park, which will highlight New Bedford's proud role in the abolition movement and the Underground Railroad as a beacon of racial tolerance and safety for freedom seekers. The entire citizenry extends its very best wishes on this memorable occasion and express the hope to continued fortune. Given this day, June 23rd, 2023, by myself, Naomi Carney, Council at Large, Council President Linda Morad, and the rest of our city councilors. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you. Thank you. We want to do just a couple of acknowledgements, and that if our members are in the audience, we want them to either wave their hands, show that they're here. Lee Blake, President; Jackie Ramus, Vice President; Kyle Cruz, Clerk; Charlene Clark-Sally; Jean Costa; Jose Dias; Bob French; Rayana Grace; Jean Gruby Smith; Diane Haynes; Henry Masty; Laurie Roberts Laurent; Samia Walker; Robbie Watkins, and Allison Walls. Let's give them all a round of applause. We also want to recognize Chief Page and his wife Ellie Page here. Chief Page is the great-great-grandson of Polly Johnson. Yes. We want you to look at the back of your program and recognize all of our major donors. If our major donors are sitting in the audience, but you see we have a lot of donors. Everybody was a major donor. But if our major donors that went beyond, we want you to stand now. I don't want to go through all the names because it's hot. If not, I'm going and I'm feeling very cool here. I mean, it's actually beautiful. And we want to thank Mr. Barboza, Tom Barboza, who put this gazebo together for us. And it wasn't in our initial plans, but what a great piece this is. I can imagine all the requests that Mary Raposa is going to get to have weddings in here, because it is beautiful. And you do have to ask for a permit. Okay. Yep. We will now have a music selection by New Bedford's native baritone Philip Lima, who has sung with the Boston Pops, the Boston Symphony, and our own New Bedford Symphony, to name a few. He is the Assistant Chair of Voice Department at Berklee College of Music. Let's have a warm welcome for Philip.
This very brief selection is from the great treasury of African American spirituals. This song, Steal Away, not only expresses a spiritual message, but was also used to give specific directions to enslaved folks who were engaged in self-emancipation along the Underground Railroad. Steal away, steal away, steal away to Jesus. Steal away, steal away home. I ain't got long to stay here. My Lord calls me, He calls me by the thunder. The trumpet sounds within my soul. I ain't got long to stay here. Steal away, steal away, steal away to freedom. Steal away, steal away home. I ain't got long to stay
You know, we're changing the program just a little because I think once we get to the unveiling, it's going to be hard to do anything else. So we may even, after this last piece we're going to have, we'll be doing the benediction kind of before the benediction, just so that we're going to put all of our attention into that corner there. And we're going to ask everybody that's back there, because the streets are blocked off, to go into the street and watch the unveiling. So, but before we continue on that, We will now have a music selection by Ethan Wood, violinist and assistant concertmaster for the New Bedford Symphony Orchestra and assistant professor of music, Wheaton College. He will be playing Liebesfreude, Joy of Love by Fritz Kreisler, which was a favorite piece by concert violinist Joseph H. Douglass, grandson of Frederick Douglass, world-renowned African-American concert violinist who also played the violin. Joseph got to play the violin because of his grandfather, Frederick Douglass. People don't know that. So we wanted everything today to have a reflection, and I hope you've been seeing it, have a reflection on Frederick Douglass and what he was able to bring, the culture, the beauty, the words. So now we will have Ethan Woods. Thank you, and let's have another round of applause for the New Bedford Symphony Trio. And we want to thank David Prentice, CEO and President of the New Bedford Symphony, for making this happen. It couldn't have happened on a better day. The rain's gone, the sun is hot. We're now going to have our benediction, and then Jean's going to help us move there. She's going to call those who will help with the unveiling to go on that corner. And we hope you'll go on the street. We want to fill the street. That'll be a great picture for the media. So I'm going to ask Reverend Karen LeBlanc, pastor of the First Union Unitarian Church, New Bedford, who will offer the benediction. The New Bedford Unitarian Church was an important to Frederick Douglass and his family.
Oh, good afternoon, everyone. I'm so honored to be here. I am Reverend Karen LeBlanc, representing the First Unitarian Church in New Bedford. And our congregation has always felt a special connection to Frederick Douglass, that narrative that he wrote. He talks about coming here to New Bedford in 1838, and that's the year that big old church on the corner of Union and County Street, my church, was built. And when he came here, he was walking down William Street and he saw a pile of coal on the side of the street, and he knocked on the door and he said, "Ma'am, can I shovel that coal for you?" Her name was Mary Peabody. She was the wife of the minister, Ephraim Peabody, at our Unitarian church. And she said, "Sure, my friend." He shoveled that coal for her, and he got, for the first time, money that he could keep for himself as a free man. We love that connection. Yes. And we are proud. We are proud of the history of abolitionists in our church. Absolutely. So we gather today to dedicate this park and unveil this memorial to Frederick Douglass. So let us take just one final moment to reflect on his life and the legacy he has given to this great city I love. So I offer this benediction. Great Creator, source of all, may this memorial serve as a lasting tribute to Frederick Douglass's courage, his wisdom, and his unwavering commitment to freedom and justice. May it be a constant reminder of the struggles of those who have come before us and inspire us to continue this important work. May this memorial also be a symbol of hope and unity, a reminder that we all have a role to play in building a better world. May it bring us together as a community and inspire us to work toward a future where all people are treated with dignity and respect. May this memorial stand as a testament to the power that one person has to make a difference. And may it inspire us to follow in the footsteps of Frederick Douglass as we strive every day in this city for a more just and equitable society. May we be steadfast, my friends, in that pursuit, and may we always lead with the power of love, because that's the only way that we replace the hate. Lead with love. Thank you for letting me speak today. Thank you for all being here. Amen.
Okay, as we prepare for the unveiling, Lee and Jean are going to guide us for that next aspect. But again, we would like you to be in the street and clear that area so those who want to turn around can see it, or just be out in the street and you can see it as well.
I just want to say cheers to some of the descendants who are here. Amelia Piper and William Piper family is here. There are descendants from the 54th Regiment here. Sergeant Connie, the 54th, the Goodine family, the White family. We want to tell your story too. And Kim's here. She is descended from an abolitionist who died when he was 30. So we are going to be able to tell those stories. So let's go and unveil the statue.
We appreciate.
Over at your house? Really? Yeah, I knew that.
Follow directions well.
I had to get next to him.
Bring Langston. I want to wait until it's unveiled. All right, everybody, you ready to pull? You got to pull this way now, okay? This way? Yeah, this way.
Come on, you guys got it.
All right. So 1,
Yank
2,
that thing off, guys.
3, pull.
There you go. Keep pulling. Keep pulling.
As you've heard, I'm the sculptor. And I have found the last 3 years working on Mr. Douglass to be just a wonderful experience. We've met challenges, obstacles, but we overcame them. And one of the biggest obstacles was the fact of course, COVID, but that prevented us from having an original base for him to sit on. But we had to go down and look at some of the wharfs and the notion of the rope industry being a really big market in New Bedford, and hence Mr. Douglass is sitting boiled on mooring ropes as he contemplates his future, as he realizes for the first time that he's a free man. So, and in his hand, by the way, this is a cane that was bequeathed to him. It was Abraham Lincoln's cane. Wow. From his wife upon Lincoln's death. And she had said, if anyone got this cane, Lincoln would have wanted Douglass. And I thought, well, with the differences that they had, with the dialogue back and forth, sometimes on opposite sides, what an honor to have Lincoln on to get this. So there he is to you. Please enjoy him, and thank you for this. Thank you. Thank you.